Our presentation goals today, pretty much, we're going to touch on a few of these things here. One, I'm going to touch on the Operations Center and the value it has, and making sure you're seeing the value in the data that you're documenting on the farm. Two, understand different methods of data movement and how we can move your guys' data from your machines to wherever you want to take it. Third, I'm sure there's a lot of gentlemen in here using prescriptions on the farm, especially with planting time. Just kind of touch a little bit on that and make sure, that's kind of a little bit of a refresher to make sure those are coming in, going out, and you're having no problem with that. Steve's going to talk a little bit about John Deere Connect Mobile and what it is. Welcome to Data Management, John Deere Operations Center. How many in this room, I know I've worked with a couple of you guys, but how many in this room have heard of the Operations Center and what it is? Probably a couple. Well, everybody knows it's the John Deere's response to the cloud-based management. Everyone's going from that, moving away from the Apex, and this is what they're using it now, calling it the Operations Center. Now, you're wondering, well, how do I get there? Where do I get there? Deere uses the myjohndeere.com to get to everything you need to. So as long as you got that one profile, one login with your email address, you can get into the Operations Center, JD Parts, JD Finance. You get to it all in that same place, just so you know about that. This is kind of a rough idea of what it would look like. You get some boundaries slapped around some of your fields, bring in your client farm and fields, all that data before, and it can look like that every time you log in. Do we have any previous Apex users that are using it still today? We can take everything that you have previously on Apex. It doesn't matter if you have 10 years. By a couple of clicks, set up in My John Deere, we can push everything that you have from Apex up there. Where you're wanting to get away, because I know Apex is a cumbersome tool. Not too many people like it, and I promise you, I know there's a couple folks in here that has worked, that if you start to try it, this is a lot more intuitive tool. Getting down to the meat of it, I think Operations Center's biggest value, or at least the tool that I feel like most of you in this room would use the most, is the Field Analyzer. Like in Apex, where you had to go down the left-hand side of the screen to the map tree to find all the maps that you've documented in your farm, that seemed like it took 15 minutes just to find the one map that you wanted to use. Now, you get in here, have everything in, you can see all the associated, sorted map layers associated with the task. So it doesn't matter if it's planting, application, harvesting, you can see map just like that from that drop-down menu. But since we're at the planter clinic and talking about what we can do there, you can see your as-applied rate, your target rate, varieties, and the planter speed, as long as you have a new enough controller on there. This is a nice part about the tool that I like, is that you can do an overview, a compare, and a difference. So in this example here, gentleman's varieties as applied planted there. So he's got two numbers in that farm, and then comparing that to his 2016 corn harvest dry yield. And you can do that just by clicking that button right there, drop down the two maps that you want, and they're sitting there right side by side. I know on Apex, the tool part of the tool I tried to use was that transparency tool. Remember that little slide bar? Well, that was pretty difficult as well. Now you can do it side by side. You can even have a difference map and have three maps laid right next to each other and start making some decisions off of that. Check for field totals and accuracy. You'll see every time that you go into different maps, everywhere you're at in Operations Center, it will tell you your averages, average speed, amount you applied. Like in this example, I got his as-applied rate for corn seeding, and then I got his as-applied for his 2x2, hopefully that's what I'm thinking. And, kind of be able to go back, check your field totals, be able to take a peek a lot easier than what you can do there. Everybody likes nice printable reports they can print off, have their totals, and be able to take that with who you need to take that. You can have nice clean reports that look just like that, and you can sort it out by field, by crop, by variety, and be able to see all that right there. Just like here on there, you got your field name, the two varieties you planted in there, the area, the average seeds you put, and the total applied. Guidance line management. The amount of times I've been on farms and been inside guys' displays, on average, how many of you still, every time you go into a field, you snap a new line? You can raise your hand. You won't be the only one, I can promise you. Well, the point is what I was trying to make, is that we don't need to do that anymore. Especially if you're using this tool, you can go right in here and edit and manage your guidance lines. You can go in here and change the name of it, or if you want, if you have 18 lines under the same field, you can delete the ones you don't want anymore. You can get rid of them, clean it up. The best recommendation I can say is that if you like a particular way to plant your corn, name it that when you get in there, corn planting line. So that's just something I wanted to touch on there, and you can do that. That's a nice tool. They just put that in there a couple months ago. Prescription builder. Now, I can only imagine most of you here probably deal with co-ops or some sort of an agronomist by some sort, fashion, or another. That's awesome. More than likely, that's probably the person you're going to keep dealing with on the prescription side of things. But they have a prescription builder by Agrian tool in Operations Center that if you started to utilize it, you can build your own prescriptions on the farm if this is what you'd like to use. The best analogy I can use is that this tool would be more for the owner-operator who's just cutting his teeth. I know there's a lot of guys that lay, 6 and 7 different map layers over top of each other to get a real specific variable rate prescription for whatever that means. You're not going to be able to do that in here. The only thing you can do in here is pull 1 year's yield data off. So if you pick 16, 15, whatever, you could use that as a prescription source, or you can bring in your soil survey maps. It will do that. It's a tool in there that if you wanted to try around with a variable rate seed map, if you had the capability, you can do that now. Field detection. This is pretty slick. How many times have you, the operator, maybe had someone else in the machine and he called the farm something else? If he was in the combine or whatever planter, it's not his fault. Everybody does it. Now, if you use this tool, have field boundaries around your farms and fields, when you bring that data up, if he accidentally called it the wrong field, because of that boundary tells its location, it automatically corrects itself and it knows where that data needs to go. They're putting more and more tools to try and prevent that double entry and keeping your data clean all the time. So that's a nice little thing, and it's only just a click and some boundaries, and your data's getting clean on the way in. And this is probably one of the most valuable things about Operations Center is the partner collaboration. Just like how I touched on before, you guys are talking to people every day. If it's us at the dealership, if it's an agronomist, whomever. If you want, you can make them a partner with your organization and get to that data that you're giving them already, be able to get to them faster. You send them an email for an invitation to your organization to be able to see it. They send it back, and they're a partner of your organization. And I know probably some of you are thinking, well, can they see everything? Before you send that partner invitation, you can adjust what you want them to see and what you don't want them to see. We have customers that I can't even support them at all because they lock their organization down. I can't help them at all. And then we got customers that let us see everything, so if they do get in trouble, I can log right in there and help you, and I can be 60 miles away from where you're at and help you remotely. So that's where that partner, it all depends on what you're doing and who you're working with. But literally that's how it would be. You could have us as a partner, have Worldwide Agronomy, and have all that listed right there in there. Prime example, I did a presentation with Helena last August before harvest, and young lady in there that was sold for Helena, she said if she had customers that had the ability to partner with her, she pushed it all the time. Getting that data as applied, whatever the case may be, get it to them faster instead of waiting until the end of the season. Because how many of you wait till the end of the season to pull all your data off the displays? It's okay. You can tell me. I'm not going to be mad at you. It is what it is. You guys get in the heat of the moment. You don't think about data management. It's hard. I understand. But it's all about working to get it to the people you need to get it to faster and keeping it clean doing so. How many of you utilize setup files as of now? There's got to be a few of you. I know some guys like variety locator files. If you're using variety locator files, you're using setup files. Pretty much with Setup Builder on here is, again, way easier than it was on Apex. You enter your products in, make sure your equipment's right, all your fields, your operators, and you can push all that to the displays. Most people get confused with what is Setup Builder. Setup Builder is you tell that display what it's going to be doing. Because how many of you in here never take the display out or ever clean it? You just move it right from the planting tractor and then move it right to the combine. Probably a few. Well, then sometimes things get discombobulated, get messed up, tasks get wrong entry in the display, and then your data gets moved to a different place when you're trying to move it. This tries to prevent that, especially the more and more hands you get in machinery. All that farm naming concept, that goes away. The guidance lines, use this guidance line, don't make another one, that goes away. You can load all that before you ever get in the machine. Just like I said, I imagine you guys are planting dozens of varieties when you're out there in the planter. I know there's probably some people that don't want to take the 5 minutes to type the variety in when they're in the planter. You can put it all in there ahead of time. And you just click it and go. That's it. That is it. Like I said, choose equipment, fields, operators, pick the profile name and what profiles you're making it for. You press create, the files terminal, you pull it off and send it where you need to send it. And we can talk about the different ways later with the movement of data, how fast we can do that. How many of you guys have JD Link enabled machines on the farm? Probably a few of you, right. We can move those JD Link terminals into your organization so every time you come in there, you can see where your machines are at. It look just like that. It gives you the serial number of the machine. If it's working at the time, you can see the working speed, fuel level, heading. And then as you can see here, the blue is the actual travel path. You can see where that machine was working in the field. If you had multiple ones, there would be pink and blue. Pink's the highlighted one. That's the one you're looking at. Blue's the other machine's travel path. But the nice thing about that, has anybody used remote display access before? Heard of it? Say, for example, you're sitting at the office at the house and your son's out in the tractor. Dad, I don't know how to fix this. If you got it, that little icon right there, I know it's a little rough, one click, and you can remote display access right into the display, into the machine, and see what he's looking at. You can do that with a JD Link enabled machine and see where he's at.
Now, Joe, do you have to do that in the office on a PC?
No, sir. You didn't have to. As long as you have an iPad, you should be able to jump right in there and see. Something that can handle that much speed. Because, of course, it is with computers, processing speed and all that. Computer would be a little difficult to do that. But see all those same JD Link codes, and I know a lot of you get mad about them codes, so do we, because most of the time the owner-operator is the one in the seat, and you say, oh, I know what's going on, I'm in the tractor. But you can do all that right from here. And the My Analyzer app, that is something that has just came out here in recent months as well. I've had a couple customers who have gotten onto the Operations Center and moved away from Apex, and everybody likes to be able to see where they're at, talking to their buddy, man, you see this farm, it's doing this. You can pull that app right onto your phone and be able to see all those map layers just like you could on Field Analyzer in Operations Center. You can see that right off your phone. Because if you try and go through your browser on your cell phone to get to Operations Center, you won't be able to see that data because it's too much for a cell phone's internet browser to handle, if that makes sense. But that same thing, you just log in with your My John Deere account and you can see all your data right on your phone, wherever you're at. Pretty easy, and then the nice thing about it, the app don't cost anything either. But in summary, I could sit up here and talk about Operations Center for 3 hours straight. That's what I do practically every day. I touched on some of the things that I felt like would be important going into planting and showing it. But in all reality, the summary is these 3 things right here. Is that you start utilizing Operations Center, you can see your data anywhere. As long as you have an internet service, you can be able to see it and make decisions wherever you're at. Because before, Apex was attached to one computer or whatever you were using, and man, I was thinking about I need to do something, but I can't see it. You can see it anywhere. It becomes valuable to you now because you can see it. To the collaboration side of things, hey, speed's what everybody wants, right? Speed kills. Being able to get that data to the trusted partners that you deal with day in and day out on the farm, you can do that now. A heck of a lot simpler than what it was before. And then the analyze part of things. As I was touching on before, is John Deere Operations Center the best tool? No, it's not. But I feel like for the majority of our customer base and talking to you guys, the analytics part of it, being able to see those maps that you guys have done, will hopefully start helping you confirm the decisions that you're thinking on making operation level decisions. Like prime example, I've had guys just be able to look at maps and, man, I knew I needed to be putting tile there, and this proves it. I need to. 3 years of maps shows me I need to be doing something, or whatever their scenario could be. It gets your mindset thinking that I need to go talk to somebody about this if I have an issue of some sort. It's not the most in-depth, but you guys got a lot more other things to do than sit and break apart data, fine point it and all. But at Operations Center at this point in time for calendar year 17, there is no cost. There was some rough rumors going through Deere last year that they was going to charge for it, but somehow that fell through. But 17, there's no cost. But from what they were telling us, that if you had a JD Link enabled machine, that waived the cost of using Operations Center. Now, if you didn't have any, they were saying it'd be like an annual subscription of like $500, but that's all rumor. But as of calendar year 17, there is no cost to use the Operations Center. And going along with that, the biggest point is that if we can make your guys' data easier to get to, it has value to you then. Because how many times before, I don't have time to go fool with that. Now it means something to you because it's clean and you can make decisions off of it. And that's hopefully what we're helping you along doing that on the Operations Center. Movement of data. I'm going to try and see if anybody wants a new hat. How many ways do you think there is to move data from our displays in the machine to wherever you need to get it to? Just holler out a number. Don't matter. 4. You're close. It's 3, but I'm going to give you the hat anyhow. I like to put it, and I kind of stole this from some Deere presentations before, the good, better, and best ways, in my opinion, that you can do it. Like I said, the USB stick, or if you're still using 2600s, the SD card, manually moving the data from the display. Pulling it off, taking it to who you need to do, that can be time consuming, and it's very easy to lose it. It's pretty easy to lose that little USB stick when you're climbing around the tractor in the dark and put it in your pocket. Oh man, I don't know where it's at. And then your data's gone. It's pretty easy. It's a good method. It's dependable. And the horrible thing about it, that's the old-fashioned way now. That's the scariest part about it. Then we have the mobile data transfer stick. Has anybody heard of that? Seen it? Anything? Okay. Mobile data transfer stick is something that just came out here in the last recent year, and it is an app that you put on your phone, and then there's the actual USB stick that you put into your display. You can pull and move your data forward and backwards coming from a management software or to the display in that app. The cell service off your phone pulls your documentation data on. See how that little circle looks like papers, files? Well, once you get that Operations Center account made up, I want to send it to the cloud. You're done. Yes, sir.
Does it cost to store money in your cloud?
No, not as far as I know, no, sir. I've never heard anybody from Deere saying that it'll charge to store that data up there. I mean, I've moved, wow, man, I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Because I would say that if it is a charge, that's probably why they're talking about that usage fee in the future. If we get more and more people using it, it's probably what some usage fee would cover, I would imagine. But as of right now, I'm talking to my Deere guys, answer your question, no. But as well, also, if you had setup files, you could pull them on to your phone and send them to your display. This was more designed for the customers like some of you maybe in this room who don't have the latest and greatest machinery. Maybe it's a 9770 combine, maybe it's the 8330 is the newest thing you got, but you're utilizing 2630s in your machine. You can have wirelessly capabilities doing it at the fraction of the cost and not having to go through all the route to have the machinery. With this capability, as you can see, there's like another little display here, and there's more listed to the side. This function, as well as Operations Center, we can take in most of the recent competitors' displays, like the Ag Leader in Command. Help me out there, Steve. The Raven Viper Pro, like I would say the latest and greatest of competitor displays. We can pull in that data from them and you can see them on Operations Center, but you cannot make or set up files or anything like that and be able to push it back. It's a one-way street with Deere on that side of things. And as you can see, you can pull data off of them using the MDT stick and using that. That's a good point, Steve. Thank you. And then there's the best method, wireless data transfer. Is anybody using that in this room? Heard of it? It's, fellas, I'm going to tell you, if you have the capability and you value your data and you have, I don't have time to fool with it. It's awesome. It's awesome. I promise you. All you got to do is have that JD Link enabled machine with either 3G or 4G. I say that because model year 12 to like model year 14 had 2G MTGs in them, and those are no longer in service. You will not be able to pick up that 2G service to push it. 3G is good to the year 2020, and 4G is good until they come up with something better. But going along with that and the Ethernet cable, an active subscription, and every time you move a field, your data goes up to the Operations Center without you having to do anything. That's how I make sure I keep on check with the guys that are using it. I can go in there and see right on their terminal every time they move a field. It time stamps it, and I can see what they're doing. It moves just like that every time you move a field. Right to your Operations Center, and it is the best account, especially if you're covering quite a few acres. You got multiple machines, and you got a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but you got other hired hands. This ensures that the data that you're wanting to get will get up to the Operations Center without any worries. But like I said, those are the three different ways. And like I said, it all depends on what's good for your data and for your operation. All that'll fall in one way or the other. If you can find the justification, everyone's got a different mindset. Those are the ways I wanted to do it, but just wanted to allude to you about those things. Moving along, the review of RX is in the display, and then talk a little bit about the Gen 4 Command Center and the new Gen 4 Extend Monitor. How many of you guys are actively importing prescriptions in the planner? Probably, a lot of it. That's why I wanted to touch on this, is that you guys have all seen this before, right? When you have a prescription on that USB, that's going to light up, and then that prescription's good. You got one on there, bring it in. It should have that profile name. Data transfer is complete. That's the first step in it. Know that. Just wanted to throw that out there. Then, that shapefile conversion, depending on who it is, as long as that shapefile's not corrupted, you should be able to see that field. That'll be your field projection, max rate, min rate, average rate, total area. I always like to throw that out there because then you can see beforehand if that prescription file might be corrupted or whatever the scenario should be. Then you know it's good, accept it, and go on. Now, how many of you know that you can make the prescription the background on your coverage map when you're actually running the machine? I wanted to bring that up too because some guys that have helped that have never run prescriptions, they were like, well, how do I know if it's working or not? Turn it like that. You can see the rates coming. Make sure you're looking for your planner. If not, then you know it's either something's wrong with the planner or something's wrong with the prescription. Now, how many of you have new enough machines that have Gen 4 monitors in them on some tractors? They've just came out with the ability now with the Gen 4 Extend Monitor. This is not, a replacement for the 2630, not a replacement for the Gen 4. All it is another display monitor. Because I know some guys like to be able to see two things going on at the same time. You have your guidance map, your guidance page, make sure everything's running there, and you then be able to switch over to your planner monitor. Pretty easy. You can set that up now. That little Gen 4 right there, you switch it over, it look like that, and it will just keep flip-flopping back and forth. It's not a processor. You can't do anything. It's just a viewable display that allows you to see two things going on at the same time. Offers monitoring and adjustment of additional run page. It's a simple plug and play, compatible with the 4600, and compared to a lot of other things, it's only $1,500 if that's something you're really serious about using. I know the Gen 4s have had their hiccups and they're still working it out, but we were down in Florida. They ran a class that had a Gen 4 Extend in it, in a planner, and it was pretty nice to be able to just hit that button and move it right back and forth. So just wanted to touch on that. I know some guys can get kind of fumbled up moving around the page is on the 2630, so just wanted to let you know about that. So, summary, just wanted to process of prescription importing and usage, talk about that new Gen 4 for you guys.
Joe does a good job explaining, and he's entertaining, isn't he? You know, he does a great job explaining with his hands. I have to talk to my voice. I can't talk to my hands that well. So anyone heard of John Deere Mobile Connect? Have you heard of SeedStar Mobile? Okay, SeedStar Mobile going forward will be John Deere Connect, or Mobile Connect. One of the things it does, you're going to see, it does and is coming with more applications than just planters. What it does do is it gives us a lot more detail, in depth, and it's mapped and it's documented. Formerly SeedStar Mobile, and it gives us row-by-row monitoring performance. Yes, there's a competitor out there that Deere's working on not making a competitor, and they have a display that does row-by-row. A lot of very similar functions. The biggest advantage of going Deere on this is, number one, if you have an electric drive planter, it already has the capability, and all it requires out of you is putting an iPad and an app and connecting to the server that's already on the planter. Coming, and Deere's expected release date will be May of 2017, we're going to be able to do very similar functions out of a sprayer, and it'll be the R series sprayers. Row by row, when I say row by row, not just actual population, target, singulation, and coefficient of variation applied downforce. That's what XP does. But it does it instantaneously, and once you have the information and it changes, it's gone. What this does is allows me to map those inconsistencies. And a big advantage to that is I can see a trend happening. Whereas if I have a planter monitor and it says row 15 was low this time, then okay, it's back again. And a little later it was low again, and then a little later it was low again. I only see it instantaneously. I don't map it. This allows me to map those errors. What's it take to make a planter do it? Okay, I already explained that an electric drive planter, it's in base equipment. Let's say I didn't have an electric drive planter, but I've got a NT planter. Okay, there's a kit to do it. I need a 2630 display or a Gen 4 display already in the tractor with a 4600 processor. I will need a 3000 or 6000 receiver. Biggest reason, the processor operates fast enough to give me updated information fast enough to map row by row. It will require an annual subscription. Now, if you've had SeedStar Mobile experience in the past couple years, like a lot of things, it had some glitches. And it worked pretty neat, but it wasn't quite consistent enough. Deere recognizes that, and for 2017, again, there is no charge for the subscription. Going forward, we're expecting around $500 to $600 a year, but you're going to see some math, and if you're with me last year, you know I like to talk about math. You're going to see some math where you'll see the value in that subscription. If I had an NT planter, or any planter that's already been upgraded to XP, what's it cost to get SeedStar Mobile? A complete kit with labor and installation is $2,566. The math on that at today's current market value of corn, all I have to do is pick up 1 bushel an acre on 750 acres of corn. You're going to listen to some other classes in here, and they're going to talk about some things like emergence, population, and spacing. And they're going to put a bushel per acre value to those factors. If I can map those things and correct the issues, you're going to find that that is less than half of what I can gain by proper population control. What I don't have XP, I've got 2011 model planter that's got SeedStar 2, and I like SeedStar 2, but I don't have XP. Well, what would it cost to upgrade? Well, if you bought a planter, you knew what it cost you as the option. If I were to do it after the fact, it's $4,520 parts and labor to install it. Deere is encouraging you to be a better producer. They're encouraging you to upgrade things. And one of those things they're doing is there's a redemption coupon for $3,000. That makes that upgrade charge $1,520. Now, it doesn't take a lot of math to figure out that I'm going to pay for that upgrade pretty quick. And I'm going to get a lot better control. You know the old saying that you can't manage what you can't measure. These systems allow us to measure what the planter's doing. Therefore, I can manage what it's doing and make corrections. Does that make sense? You know, we got some fancy hats up here and we're supposed to give them away, but I can't do that if I don't get some interaction. Sprayer performance. I talked about this is coming for sprayers. Anyone have a sprayer today with a 2630 or 2600 monitor in that cab? Can anyone tell me what 2 things I document when I'm running that sprayer? As applied map, rates, and coverage map. I go into sprayer performance with this program. I'm going to get my actual rate, but I'm also going to get rate deviation maps and pressure maps, ground speed, and this one, droplet size predictor. Is anyone going to be spraying dicamba this year? Does anyone know the restrictions with dicamba? Does anyone know the liability consequences if you don't follow those restrictions with dicamba? This would give you a great tool to document and defense, if you will, that I did follow the label and I did do what was corrected, and no, that's not my problem. I didn't damage that crop 2 miles away. Because I document droplet size, target rate, flow rate, pressure, ground speed, and it shows the deviations and where they happened at. Yes? Nope. That's correct. That's the one thing it doesn't do, but it gives you every other tool to prove that you applied the product as required by the label. But you're right, it doesn't document boom height. Maybe it will, but right now it doesn't. I will reward you for asking me a question, though. This is kind of neat, this little spot right here. Well, what if I had a weed escape? Is that a chemical problem or is it an applied problem? That kind of gives me a clue that maybe I need to make a different selection on my nozzles because what I was doing in here wasn't right. It's just another way of documenting and mapping. Therefore, like I said, you can only manage what you can measure. This gives me more management tools. Pre-season setup with Mobile Connect. Remember, it's a wireless data server. And the first thing I got to do is I got to make sure my connection is good, my subscription status is valid. Because the last thing I want to do is get ready to take across the field and then find out my subscription is invalid. I haven't updated. And remember, it's free of charge this year. We just need to do it. From there, I need to make sure my Wi-Fi is corrected so it's talking to the planter. The planter is a very, very sophisticated monitoring system. It's just unfortunate the 2630 at this time frame isn't quite keeping up with what the planter is capable of telling it. And lastly, thank you. If you have any questions, please, Joe and I are here.
And before we wrap up, one of the biggest things I think, at least with the planting side of things, the capability, you know, everybody talks about the, you know, planting windows getting smaller and smaller, and the capability of how fast you guys can put seed in the ground now. I know the guys I helped this spring, we put 3,000 acres down in a week. You know, and that's not, I mean, and that was probably slow. And especially now you get with these electric drive planters and it's pushing the capability. If you can have the ability to see that stuff on the fly, you know, as you go and talk to some of these other guys about the, you know, emergence and how much that impacts your yield and stuff like that, planter's most important tool that touches the farm. If you can be able to see those trends and be able to correct them because you've seen it on the fly, I can only imagine how to quantify maybe the potential yield that you gain from seeing that trend and fixing the problem on the planter. So that was just something I've thought about the more and more we've talked about it, and I just wanted to throw that out there before you guys head it out.